Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we get started, let me go ahead and give a brief little review. In the last part, we had a number of events happening. The heroes had a meeting about what happened down in the Nine Hells, and it was quite interesting. Deku, him and Bakugo talked about it with Ochako. She wants to look into finding a specific skill for her circumstances. They have all broken level 400, and right now she has a decent amount of points left to spend. Bakugo himself, he put some points into his power skill to buy Limitless, and he is also dealing with the fact that he is a newfound father. Though, him and Deku, they have a lot to go over. Deku mentioned to him a few things that he might find interesting, talking a bit more about their plan and what their next move might be. But at this point, it's like a game of chess. They are playing the board. With their inside guy, they know when he'll make a move, but he knows they've already made a move on Hell. They've put into motion a set of events that may take decades before they're even remotely sorted through. And the Demon Lord, he lost a good number of his own forces. From the monsters he summons, the creatures he may raise from the layers of hell. And that, it does mean something. With a tyrant dead, they already lost a significant amount of power. A creature of primordial strength, gone. And right now, he has a lot to sort through. He only has a little over 5 weeks before his event, his plan, can really be put into motion. And that is not a large timetable. Now, Deku decided to talk to Coco, the former slave girl he rescued and healed with Shomo, and he gave her a bit of an offer. He's well aware of what she's been put through. He's well aware that leaving her to her own devices in Granala may not go down well, but he doesn't have much of another option. He can train her and give her the strength so she's not put in another position like this. As far as she's aware, she's the only remaining member of her family left alive. And Izuku, he felt sorry for her, though he did mention giving her the opportunities to learn magic from him, and she decided to take him up on these offers. Now, Lillian, she did come to see Izuku. However, she mentioned that the political incident he had a few days ago with a prince is now her problem. Multiple nations around Granala already know that Deku murdered some king because he tried to have her assassinated. Though, right now they're hearing about how Izuku basically cursed a noble with insanity from a foreign nation. But they don't understand the whole story. And if she can't get it sorted out, then there is the idea that an alliance with that nation, yeah, they might try to bear down with Granala or try and play political bullshit, which he did not like. So he had an idea. Gathered them all together for a large event, and he will sell the dragons left in his inventory. It might be similar to what he did before, but hey, it gives people a reason to be there, a chance to mingle, and he even thought about bringing some special guests. Now then, with that being said, people have been notified. Deku invited Bakugo and Ochako, but both of them, they were talking about a few things they might need to do. Though Ochako mentioned she might be able to make an entrance. Though Bakugo, he mentioned that he might be busy with his children. And Izuku, he didn't hold him much to that. He's well aware that those early days can be strange. Now, with that being said, we do currently have before the afternoon. Right now, a lot has been going on. People begin to arrive early this morning, and some were quite surprised to see that Granala, it is a new massive city, and it is slowly but surely becoming a powerhouse in this region of the continent. Now, Deku, he still has not arrived, and Lily, she is sweating a bit, trying to think about what exactly to do. Representatives of the nations are here, and some people from the last event have shown up, along with a few new faces that she can only assume may be a part of an alliance between those kingdoms. She already does go to see King Arnol, the man who she knows. She's well aware of what his son did to piss off Izuku, and this does feel rather awkward, especially considering the fact that she and that man's family, they have met numerous times, especially in the last 2 decades, but now it's rather odd. They're trying to resolve an incident where somebody was wronged and someone feels they have been wronged. And that's probably the most annoying thing about it. Right now, she's a turn to Erodos, who does go to stand there in a blue kimono. And she has a turn to Indra, who does go to wear an interesting white silken dress, though it does seem rather strange. She does have her wings at her side, and poking out of the back by her waist. But along with that, she also does seem to have this strange thing around her, made of a interesting silk, possibly magical. She hasn't really asked too many questions, but it's got her worried. And right now, she does go to think about it. People were made well aware of what they were going to be doing here. Not only is this a potential event to mingle and renegotiate certain trades, but the advisors have been giving her glances. People who are either appraising her or are wondering where the hell that bastard is. And this, it does go to somewhat annoy her. Before a hand on her shoulder does going to make her somewhat tense up. And Deku does go to step forwards talking about it. Right now, him with braids in his hair, they do go to somewhat run down forwards, along with his hair combed back as he does get stand there in a red kimono himself. It's finally made, as he does go to have his weapons on his side, informing her. That took him a little bit of time, but he does have a few things prepared. Though their guests have not arrived completely yet, as it would seem. No, it does not appear so. Deku gonna turn, as someone does go to express. It is quite nice to see him. Him turning and seeing Thela, and people do to glance over, watching the Archfey walk up with her pregnant granddaughter. And they are approaching the hero. And Izuku, he does get a turn, bringing his full attention to her and making his way over, expressing, it has been quite some time. He's happy that they were able to make it. Right now, him going to reach a hand up and go to pull Thela in for an embrace, before he does go to give her a kiss. And whenever people do to see that, they do to put the pieces together. Huss whispers, and even some muttering as Deku does pull away. And he does a turn to the older woman, who does go to give an air of mystery, and she does go to step forwards. Wearing her hand up as Deku, he does go to express, kissing her hand and talking about it. It has been quite some time, grandmother. Though he is happy and honored that they've made it. How is their travels? Quite well. But I do have to say, this place is rather larger than I remember. Right now, this being where Lillian does go stepping forwards, expressing. That is correct. The castle was made quite a bit larger. It was anticipated that they may need to entertain more guests, especially given the circumstances. They may be able to move to the courtyard in a little bit of time for the auction, but right now this is more for mingling and seeing how things do go. Her turning to Thela and expressing, it is quite nice to meet her. Nice to meet you, Lillian. I'm assuming you are one of my husbands? Your assumption would be correct. Her going to turn. And this time, Thela does go to make direct eye contact with Indra. And she does a somewhat smile, holding on to her daughter. And this time, Vova does go to let out a sigh and express. Well, it does appear that this has happened. Then again, it is quite interesting. So, how does this make now, husband? And he does get a smile, expressing. He will not confirm nor deny. That will be up to her eye for the night. And she does let out a brief laugh. And Deku does get a turn. Right now watching as gazes do appear on his back. And someone they do to step forwards to Deku. Eri does to shake the hand of the King of York. The man does go to bow his head to Deku in a nod of understanding before expressing. He's quite happy to be here. He believes that this auction will be one of the great ones. But he does have to ask, how well are those dragons in condition? Some are quite well, some are rather not. Though your clans need the blood. And as I am aware, I do see some of your other people. Yes, other lords of the land from my region. We've come to an understanding, but that does not mean we have to like it. No, we are expecting this auction to be much greater. It is much greater. We've got, if my math is correct, a lot more dragons than last time. I see. You've been hunting. Your tattoos. They're not scars, are they? No, you're correct on that. It's part of a high-level ability. Have you tested it? Unfortunately, no. I've been interested to see what it might happen, but unfortunately it's not one of the ones I can activate consciously. Though my other aspects of draconic nature, I can activate. Him going to stare at the man, and he does a smile at Deku, expressing, perhaps one day they may have a match. See if he's willing to become a king. I'm already a prince, though I'm not sure I can make that jump. But perhaps we can talk a bit more later. We still have yet for the guest of honor to arrive. Guest of honor. Yes. Deku vanishing. When he does go to appear on a platform they built, he does go to announce. Now, he is aware that there is still many guests who are arriving, but he would like to give them a special announcement for some who will be here tonight and today. It may be a little bright for them right now, but he has taken precautions for them. They are people not many of them may understand. He gave them knowledge they will need, and he even allowed them to speak the language, using some interesting spells. But he knows they may be an interesting subject for a lot of people. Him gesturing, expressing that he would like them to all meet Queen Delmas of the Drow. And everyone, they do get to turn their heads. And when they do to see a strange looking woman step into the room, she does have something strange covering her eyes. Though Deku, he does go to stare on, as their strange fasten sense is seen by many. But they don't get much done. The woman stepping forwards and expressing in the common tongue. This is quite interesting. Her walking over to a window and looking outside, looking up and talking about it, living among the surface. Quite an interesting and odd idea. She does not understand how they could live with such a strange thing in the sky, but that is not her place. Then again, she is here to discuss much with Queen Lillian. And Lily herself does stare on quite alarmed. People turning back to Deku, who is no longer on the stage. And he does make his way over as guards do go to step forwards. And Queen Delmas does go to bring her hand up, somewhat expressing to them. Now, this is quite interesting. She was told that they can do much up here, but she does not see the appeal quite yet. Making a trade agreement with Granala certainly is an interesting prospect. But what exactly could they offer her that would catch her attention? I'm sure that the Queen can offer you much, but you would have to negotiate that with her and her advisors. Yes, and where is this Queen? Her stepping forwards, bringing her hand up as the woman does get a smile, shaking Lillian's hand and beginning to try and talk with her. Though whenever some people do go walking up, they do to get a glare from the guards. And when they do to tighten their grip on their weapons, some people do go to back away. And then they do go to notice one thing. When some women do come walking up to talk, they are allowed to approach. And the men, they quickly are able to discern that one rumor they heard about the Drow is real. Them backing away, but letting the princesses and queens step in for conversations. And it is an interesting thing. Right now, Deku himself backing out of the conversation as he does go to walk over back to Vesa. Now, he does go to talk about it, feeling like it's been quite a strange day already. The last couple days he has not heard anything. Granala has not been attacked. It has not been the subject of some sort of controversy other than what's going on now. And there's nothing going on over with the other nations. I mean, Ochako of Kila hasn't had to deal with problems in her nation. And then Bakugo, he hasn't had to deal with much over where he's from. It's just been quiet. And that thought does go across his mind. And someone, they do come walking over, expressing. Now, is this not quite an interesting sight? Him turning and going to see a human man with a guard who does go to approach, and the crown on the man's head does mark him as some sort of royalty. And Izuku does go to ask, exactly who might he be? I am King Arnold of Zusha. I heard that you cursed my son. I see. Your son was the young adventurer I met last week who decided to speak ill of the dead. Did he now? Yes, he did. I told him who I was when he said something that made me laugh. He believed I was below his station, and when I told him who I was, he decided to speak ill of my allies. The ones I believe you know of. Yes, I believe everyone is aware of your former companions. Alino rest their souls. That isn't possible. Oh? Yes, well, the man who killed them, he cast true death. I see. The man somewhat going to bow his head forwards. I am sorry. No one should. I understand now why you may have harmed my son. He spoke ill of them by speaking ill of me. And your son is not cursed. If you are trying to butter me up, in the best way of putting it, sir, know this. Your son should recover sometime today. I gave him a week's worth of my memories. Yes, I was meaning to ask you about this. Nothing seems to be working when you try to remedy him. He has to either be medicated to stay unconscious or, well, curse removal does not affect him. It wouldn't. It was quite a simple little thing. Gave him a week's worth of my memories that should dilute and fade, but will leave an impact on him. Hopefully he is more humble. Yes, I understand. But I cannot let this slight against my family and blood go unpunished. I don't expect you to. Now, I expect, however, you and those you are allied with are here tonight. If I'm correct, then you are allied with the giants of Hoka. Am I correct? Or are you allied with the high elves of Cronem? You certainly have a keen eye. Well, these are unfamiliar faces, from areas farther and wider than I'm used to. In fact, I even suspect you might have allies with the Kitsune of Tapaya. Yes, King Keta certainly is an interesting man. Him and I have not seen eye to eye on many things, but it does not mean we are enemies. I see. That is good to hear. Last time I had to deal with a king who had problems, he was a bit unsettling for my take. Was he now? He was a humanist. Ah, I see. I do not understand that. Yes. He believed that humans are better. I see. If I am incorrect, are you not human yourself? Slayer of dragons. I see. And these changes of yours? Magic? No. These are simply from slaying dragons. I'm sure, as you're aware, there are quite a lot of stories about people gaining interesting abilities. In fact, I believe you may be privy to some ancient stories and legends, especially the one of, well, there's no name mentioned, but most call him the carnivore. Yes, yes, I have heard that tale. It is believed that if a slayer kills enough dragons, he may himself lose to dragon fury. But in that story, the man only grew horns. He believed himself to be a monster. That may be true, but as you can clearly see, I myself am no monster. I doubt that. I have heard of your tale and renown. I've heard of what many of the heroes can do, battling a cataclysm and fighting the demon lord. You would have to be a monster to fight that man. Him going to stare at Deku, and some people have already begun to gather to watch these two converse. Right now, though, Deku, he does watch the man lower his gaze to the floor and take a drink from his wine, as he does go to listen to the conversations that do continue to flow. And the day is rather interesting. Deku does hear tale of some things Bakugo and Ochako have done. Ochako, she helped take out some strange creature that was threatening a city. And whenever it tried to raise its own army of the undead, she took it out. A tale of Bakugo fighting a lich and nearly losing, though he managed to come out on top by his sheer grit. He had to eliminate half the city to destroy the lich, but he was then able to go back to its lair and find its phylactery, though he did also blow it up. So there is that whole thing too. It might have been a bit more primitive, but it got the job done. And these tales of those two, especially of them working together, is quite interesting. I'll have to ask both of them later, but it does make him quite curious of what exactly he missed in his time in the Underdark. And someone, they do even go walking up asking him about that. I mean, the Drow are real. Are many of the stories they've heard about them real as well? And Deku, he does somewhat try to laugh some of those things off. Though there is a bit of time later. It has begun to turn more into the afternoon. People, they have already begun talking about certain alliances and even trying to negotiate trade deals. Lillian, she, thanks to some of her advisors at the event, were able to start talking about a few more things. And currently Deku, he does go somewhat sit there with Thela, as she is a bit tired. Right now, him asking her exactly if she's alright. And she does go to bring one of her legs up and begin to cast some healing magic on it. Talking about it. She is quite fine. However, the shoe she is wearing is hurting her legs and her feet. It has been quite stressful, but she is hoping that this is going to be over soon. I see. And afterwards? Afterwards, we may negotiate another deal. And I think you are well aware of my terms. I am, but if I'm correct, your grandmother does still owe me. No, wait. I do not believe she does, dear husband, but you may be owed by me. And I am well aware as to what abilities you may be keen towards. Oh? Yes. Though I am quite interested. Forbidden magics. strange magical symbols, seals, and your tattoos. I would have to ask for this knowledge as well, for I feel that our child, they may stand on the shoulder of titans. I've killed titans. I'm well aware, and I believe they will have that potential as well. Quite a dangerous combination. Her leaning onto her hand. Do you not agree? Someone going to step forwards. Right now, breaking from the crowd as Deku does go to stare at an elven man, who does go to stride towards him and slam a hand down on the table. Right now, Thela going to lean off of it and go to give the man a glare. As right now, in regards due to step forwards, the man does to watch Deku go to move to his feet. And he does express. He's been hearing quite a few things about him today. And he does have to say, he has many concerns about it. And who might you be? I am Prince Rumaya, and I am of Cronum. You are the hero, correct? Yes. Now, I am concerned about much that I have heard. As I've heard, you have a harem. Yes. This compromises the daughter of Atrig the Red. You have Vessa, a high warrior of renown of a clan residing in Granala. That would consist of also Fova, her granddaughter of the Archfey. You have rapport with a dragon and an Archfey. That is correct. Your point? My point is rather simple. Exactly what is stopping you from attacking other nations, claiming they have wronged you in some way, and trying to take us over? You already once killed a human king and harmed a prince. Someone's stepping forwards and going to grab the man by the shoulder as they do get shaken off. And the man does a slam his hand down, expressing, how do they know Granala will not retaliate? Or that the bitch queen is not going to use him to take over their lands? And Deku does go to narrow his eyes at the man, telling him he might want to retract his statements, or as he had too much wine. I am well aware of my current statements. Daughter of a red dragon, queen of a nation, princess of another nation, and a warrior of high renown. Am I missing any? I would retract your previous statements. Otherwise, I will challenge you to a duel. I believe I can hold my own. Please ignore him. He has had much to drink. Now, son, I would suggest you are challenged. People going to stare at Deku, as he does go to express. Him going to bring his hands up and go to slide the top of his kimono off, before letting it drop to sit at his back and going to tighten the wrapping that does cover his waist. Before he does go to somewhat stretch his arms out, and people do to glare at him. And he does express. He will allow him to pick his weapon. Though, he already does know what weapon he will use to fight him. He can make the terms of their fight as well. Exactly what will it go towards? Surrender or death? It will go to surrender. I wish to make a point. And I wish that you were aware. I challenge you Prince to a battle. Now, the term is going to be quite simple. Deku raising a hand, and whenever it does a glow, the man does going to have it shoot out and strike him. Whenever it does so, he does this one stagger, and Deku does express. If he wins their battle, then he will take his magic. If he loses, then he'll have a chance to take Izuku's magic. That is how this magic works. And the man is just glanced down, staring at the strange symbol on his hand, though he is intrigued. Magic of this nature. It exists, yes. Now, do you agree? Him going to nod. And people, they do get to hear roaring from the warriors about this event. Some making their way over to the balconies as Deku, he does go to walk over. Him leaping down into the courtyard as the elf does go to follow. Him walking over and leaping down. Though wind magic, it does go to carry him down gently to land. Right now, him standing there and going to pull a blade from a sheath. Deku bringing his hands up and going to grab his weapons. Him putting them in his inventory and tightening the wrap around his waist further. Before expressing. Now, he's been doing much experimentation with this, but he believes this will be a good, proper run. Him raising a hand as a circle does begin to form out of blue magic, and Deku does begin to focus before he does go to disperse it. It beginning to glow brightly white in the air. Before the symbol does a pulse bright and a small portal does go to open. Before a tiny creature does come flying forwards. And it does go to speak out in the Fey tongue. Exactly why has he offered a contract? Good. Something answered. It's quite simple. Now, I wish for us to form a contract for the battle. Do you now? Yes. I will offer some of my magic to you as payment. You may consume my mana and be on your way, spirit. If these terms are acceptable. Is it now? Yes. I am willing to even offer to allow you to take a small portion of my divine mana for the time. Interesting. Yes, mine will replenish naturally, but I feel you may like that deal. Now, I will need to join us for this to work, under my conditions. The spirit agreeing, and the man is to watch Deku talk with a strange, small creature. It nodding its head at him as he does speak Sylvan. And it does go to being glowing. Deku bring a hand up before he does go to glow. And this time there is where fairy wings do to pop up on Deku's back. Them glowing with a strange white light. Before Deku, he does have his eyes turn a different color. And he does express. Now, he's gonna go ahead and use this fairy's power. It has wind magic. What was that? Simple. I told you I would fight with a contracted spirit, a summoning circle. And I've made it my weapon. Me. That was not part of the agreement. The agreement was I would fight with a summoning circle, not a contracted spirit. Now, if you are afraid, you may concede the duel. It goes until one is unable to finish. One is down, not dead. I'm giving you an out. You cannot fight me. And the man does a glare at Deku. Him going to send a burst of wind out with a blast. And Deku does going to fly backwards up into the air. The four wings on his back flapping profusely as he does hear the spirit say something in his mind. Right now, him going to bring a hand up and go to send a ball of wind directly into the man's gut. Him sliding backwards as he does, then going to get back up and get ready. This time, him going to bring his hands down as their ears are branches, do a shoot into the ground, and going to blast up. A spike flying in front of Deku as he's a fly backwards. Him bring his foot out and going to kick off for the one that does try to sprout where he was going to go. And this time Deku does the fly in and crash directly into the man. Before he does, going to bring a hand up and begin to spin a cone of wind directly around his fist. It turning into a drill before Deku does a pull it back and going to aim it directly at the man's face, informing him, holding him down, to yield, in a strange and somewhat light and airy voice. And the man, he does go to glare at Deku. Though seeing that his eyes do begin to darken a bit, he does go to concede the battle. As Deku does go to stand, him letting out a breath as a spirit, it does go to leave his body. The strange traits disappearing in a flash of light as a spirit, it does go to float in front of Izuku, saying something and then going to bow its head before it does go to begin flying away, dispersing back into magic itself. And Izuku, he does a stand, a screen informing him. The magic symbol on the opponent beginning to disperse. He has beaten the prince in his challenge. He is the winner. He may now take one magic from his opponent. Deku going to glance down. And he does get to somewhat look at the man, who does get to stare at some strange screen in front of him, though his eyes are very concerned. And Deku does get to see an option. Wind magic, nature magic, or earth magic. And that is interesting. Though Deku, he does go to pick nature magic. And whenever that's going to happen, the man does going to have a green light go to raise out of his body. Him letting out a gasp as it'll fly directly into Deku. And he does it to raise his own hands. Him being informed, he does have the woodland curse magic. However, he now has nature affinity magic. Him going to hear his system talk about it. Right now, him having a strange light glow in his inventory. And he does go to stare at the cord of magic that used to be an amulet. And it is quite interesting. This time, him raising a hand as a flower does get a sprout from his palm for magic. And people do just stare at Deku. Him looking at that and looking back down towards his opponent, who does glance down at their own hands in horror, trying to use nature affinity. But they do look up at Deku, roaring out about what the hell he did. And he does it to bend down, informing the prince. He told him the terms of their match. Now, unfortunately, he no longer has nature magic, but he does still have his other abilities. He would recommend cultivating them. Now, he would give this right back, but he does have concerns he would just try to take his forbidden art. And the man, he does look at Deku with pleading admiration in his eyes, begging him to give him back magic. And this Deku, unfortunately, cannot abide by. standing and going to express, raising his hands about how they will begin the auction in a minute. However, he would like the king of this man to understand. The terms of their agreement was to take a form of magic. He played fair. He told the young man to apologize for his statement. Unfortunately, he's lost something important to him. Looking back down to the man, and he does go to look back at Deku, still angry, though he does go to express, turning away that the auction will begin soon, and then they can do much more. And this, it does go to happen. The young man is led away, and people, they do begin to start asking for bids on these draconic creatures. The white dragons, the red dragons, and when they do start getting to the other creatures he does have, such as the fact that he has a black dragon in his inventory, people are quite intrigued to know what they can get out of this one. Though Deku does get to end the auction with his amethyst dragon. And people staring at a dragon made of amethyst and with scales of this stone, this gem, the bids do begin to start piling up. And that it is quite interesting. Right now, Deku going to somewhat sit there. And whenever people are bidding high and someone finally does get to land it, they are worried. They're well aware that they can make a lot of stuff back from this creature, especially considering the fact that the magical artifacts they can make from the amethyst of that beast could be sold for quite high prices. Though there is where people do begin to start filling back into the banquet hall, talking about a few things as the day does turn more into evening. And much has happened. The harder alcohols have been brought out, and people, they have been talking even more. Some have left, though others, they've stayed, wanting to know more about what's going on here. The idea of having trading agreements with the people of the Underdark are interesting, but as for the logistics, that's a bit harder to figure out, especially considering the fact that they don't even know where or what this city is. Now, Deku, he does just want to sit outside, thinking about a few things as a branch. It does just sprout from his palm, and he does get to hold on to it. It's interesting, making a tree and, well, holding it. He wonders if Granala could have a large tree like in Emsera, planting it, sprouting it, letting it grow. That would make the city quite beautiful. But that is a lot of maintenance for a tree. Especially one that would probably take up a lot of space, mess up the ground, might grow into his lair. Yeah. He doesn't need termites trying to upset his shinies. Let alone dealing with more. Maybe not. A tree would be pretty, but it would require a lot to keep up on it. Right. Well, there is certainly that. Him, whether that some people are still eyeing him. He's already had a few kings try to offer their daughters up for marriage, even informing him of a few things about them. They're well aware of blah 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 blah. That's what it kind of turned into. Since Deku, he just seemed to start tuning it out. Ochako never made an appearance. She must have gotten quite busy. That or something happened. Should he be worried? No. If something happened, she would have tried to contact him. She would have tried to contact Bakugo. One of them. He's just a little paranoid. That is all. Right now, him going to look up and see the moon in the distance beginning to rise, along with its twin in the sky. And he does go to let out a sigh before bringing his hands up and stepping back. And he does go to express if she may allow him to take this dance, holding his hand out. And some people staring at Deku do to see him staying there outside. As right now there is where glasses will break, and someone they do to turn looking at a man, and his eyes, they're wide, his shaky hand pointing out to the door where they do to see a woman floating down from the sky. And she, by the gods. Some people turning their attention as some warriors are glaring that way as well, ready for battle as Deku does come strolling into the room. And many of them, they have their eyes go wide, as there is where a woman who is 7 feet tall does get to someone stand there. Her in an elegant dark blue dress. Her hair tied back in a braid as she has overlooked the crowd. And many people do begin to fall to their knees, and some do just get to stare on in awe. As she does express, it is quite nice to see many people here. It is a rather beautiful event, and she does wish not to take up much of their attention, but the hero of Granola, Izuku, he did invite her to dance. She does not hope to spoil their evenings. And people just go to stare on. A god, a goddess, that they're seeing a living divine in the flesh. She's beautiful. The aura around her, the feeling around her of mana, it's so rich and pungent that it smells like the ocean. A strange, salty smell, but it's refreshing? No, that can't be right. Their senses must be playing tricks on them, but how is what they're seeing even happening? And some people do to stir on. Though when Berthila does get a turn to her grandmother, she does see that a look of awestruckness does sit on her slack-jawed face, as a divine is dancing with a mortal. Now, with that being said, the party is concluded. After the dance, you do have where Nuva, she does go to take a drink, accepted by Izuku, and going to somewhat bow her head forwards, expressing that she cannot stay for very long, but she is satisfied with his offering, and it was quite an eventful evening. Her leaning forwards and going to whisper something to Deku, as he does go to stand there and turn, her vanishing as her presence does disappear from the room. Right now, some people going to just stare, but Deku, he does go to wear a smile, him turning and going to express to many people that the evening is over now, and he would like to express to many of them to enjoy the rest of their nights. Right now, he does have much to do, and he does need to take the drow back to their city. him make his way over and bring a hand up. The queen and her entourage going to go and put their hands on each other's shoulders or grabbing a limb. The queen going to grab onto Deku as he does teleport them back to their city. And when they do go to arrive, the queen does go to announce, quite surprised, that he is quite an interesting man. She would have never thought that a warrior such as him would have come from another realm, let alone the higher gods chose him. Certainly. But I am quite happy that you two were able to negotiate something. Yes. Well, I believe it will help her renown. Many people down here will also be quite intrigued to know where I got my items. If they know I get them from the surface, it will give me quite the advantage. Though I do have questions about what happened to the feral warrior I once saw fighting for his life. He's still there. Though he may not be fighting in your arena any longer. Do not get me wrong. It may be an interesting prospect, but I do know I would like to take Lillian to explore your city myself. I believe it may be a different and interesting experience for her. I see. Perhaps something can be arranged. But, as for you, hero of Granala, further trades would be acceptable. Tell your princess we will accept these fresh fruit items, along with your sweets and wine. They are acceptable and most delectable. Though what of you? I could introduce you to my daughter. I'm quite alright. I have quite a lot on my plate. Yes, yes. I saw the way that you and that goddess were looking at each other. It is quite an interesting event. I'm sure many will be quite wary of Grunala now. A statement, perhaps. A statement indeed. And one I hope that you do follow. Her going to express, breaking her gaze from Deku, and beginning to walk away. Perhaps, but her offer does still stand. She does have a daughter, after all. And Deku does get to vanish. Now, with that being said, we do have Bakugo. Bakugo, he currently is sitting in a well-made house in the city. And he is holding on to one of his own sons, thinking about a few things as he does get to feel a presence in the room. Him going to turn his head and get ready to reach for a weapon, though he is wary of the sleeping child in his arm. And he does see Usin Druso, the man standing there as he does get across his arms. And Bakugo does get to ask him exactly what's going on. There have been no mention of retaliation. Has there not? No, there has not been. The Demon Lord, he is still a miffed. Learning that the hero of Granala was the same man he fought millennia ago, he is rather shaken by his experience. It has been quite an interesting week, to say the least. Hell is in chaos. A predicament that may take decades or centuries to resolve. You've crippled his force by half. Have we? Yes. Though I fear what he will do with the remaining forces. I've heard from Zagal. He has been doing much. He is attempting to improve their power. And that is what I do fear. Are you saying we need to move? Not yet. I believe that he is lying. A possible form of misdirection. If he was increasing power, why would he not ask me? If he suspects me, then I will tell you further, but I do not believe so. But the time is quickly approaching, Bakugo. Me and the hero of Granala must come to blows. Why? Why do you have to fight? I have put 2 decades into this. You do not understand what it is. I have betrayed everything I stood for. I have done so to keep my nation and my daughter safe. He has taken up that mantle and taken up that fight. My former protege, Theodore, he holds that banner as well. Unfortunately, I do not believe I am fit to stand by them. The day I met the Demon Lord on that battlefield, he gave me an ultimatum. I slaughtered every one of my allies that day and joined him. And now I wish that this is my fate. I am a traitor and a disgrace to my title, to my station. Me and Izuku, as you know him, will fight. One of us will win, one will lose. Either I will come out on top and continue with my orders, or he will kill me, slay me, and you will all go on to slay the Demon Lord. Either way, I have made peace with my current position. If death is to claim me, I only ask that she allows me to enter her embrace, for I am not worthy of death and her generosity. Quite a speech. Yes. Yes, it is. If I am to die, pass on to Lillian that, in the end, I had some part to play in helping you. Not everything I have touched was tainted by evil. I will. I hope he can forgive you. Druso going to vanish. And Bakugo, he does go to let out a sigh, still annoyed by the events, though he himself is trying to understand what's happening. Contact of Chaco? Maybe, but no, that would be bad. Even he hasn't let her in on this secret. He knows both of them are going to be pissed. So he either has to deal with that fallout now or later. Later would be best. Later would be safer for everyone. If they can get through this, then that's good. If they never want to speak to him again, then that is fair. Though he won't be ashamed to admit he did what he could to keep people safe, to make sure they won. Now, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.